Y'all are in such a treat for today's episode with Suzanne. I had so much fun interviewing her, getting to understand her career trajectory and how she got into comedy and how her corporate career has given her the skill set to thrive in her industry right now. This episode was such a reminder that self trust, radical self trust, is the only way we can bring our dreams to life. If you like this episode, leave a comment, share it with someone that you know, and follow the show so that this show can continue to grow, to scale, and reach the people that it needs to. My guest today is no stranger to the internet. She is our Regina George of the Democrats. She leads us to be meaner to the red, and I'm so excited to have Suzanne Lambert here with me today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on with you.
Bring us to the beginning, right? You're on TikTok. I know you are a comedian also by trade. When did you decide, you know what, I'm going to mix my comedy and politics and take my career from there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've done stand up for a long time. I've done stand up since 2018, and I would post online videos like here and there for years. And it was actually when I had a terrible show and I decided that I just needed to take a break from stand up in
Mm.
general. And I'm so thankful for that period because that was really when I started posting more online. I was like, instead of having to go hang out in basements of comedy clubs every night, it would be great to be able to just tell my jokes to audiences directly. And I still do live
Mhm.
stand up, but it was like I just wanted to be able to try different kinds of ways to tell jokes and reach audiences. And it really wasn't, I didn't really start posting like consistently until summer slash fall of 2024, which was obviously coinciding with the election. And even up until that point, I hadn't talked about politics a ton on TikTok. I would post a lot on like Instagram stories and stuff, and I was very
Okay.
politically engaged. But it was one of those things where I was keeping TikTok and Instagram separate because Instagram feels more personal and it's like your coworkers. I had a full-time job in finance at the time. So I was trying to kind of like keep my lives separate. And it was after the election. It was the week after the election when I was just scrolling and seeing messaging around politics and how we were going to get through the next 4 years. That just wasn't
Mhm.
resonating with me at all. And it was a lot of what I wanted to say prior to the election, but timing is everything. And I know people would have gotten mad at me for it because they still get mad at me for it now, even though we lost.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, screw it. We already lost. So I might as well talk about things the way I really want to talk about them. And that's when I made the Regina George Liberal video that went super viral.
Mm.
And then after that, funny enough, my Republican makeup video and trend went viral like to international attention. And I actually made that video first, but the internet is really weird in that way.
Okay.
Sometimes things
Mm-hmm.
pick up. So it picked up like months after I made it, which can happen. And then I went full time just a few months later. So I've been doing this full time for about a year now.
What's your favorite part about doing content full time?
I love when I hear from people and especially women about how my content has inspired them to get involved in local politics. I got a message this week that almost made me cry. I want to cry thinking about it, where this woman said that I inspired her to be a Regina George liberal and to fight back. And she and other women in a pretty red area in North
Mm-hmm.
Carolina on Lake Norman have started a Regina George Liberal Club where they meet once a month and they have speakers and they do phone banking and voter drives. I mean, to me, that's what this is all for, right? It only positively impacts one person. To me, that is enough, truly. And the fact that it has impacted thousands is my favorite part. Just knowing that I'm encouraging women to take up more space and to fight back in ways that we have
Mm-hmm.
not always been encouraged to fight back. And in fact, we've been discouraged to
Mm-hmm.
fight back.
When I think about history and how women have played a role in advocacy, a lot of times they are put on the sideline. They're not the front and center characters. Like when we think about the civil rights movement, the Harlem Renaissance, a lot of times it is men centered. And your voice, your presence has emboldened women to begin speaking up in politics, to start taking a front seat in the things that are impacting all of us, and the confidence to that we get to be a little intolerant. Like the shit that's happening right now, we get to be intolerant.
Totally. And it's interesting to me, and you'll see the old guard come through because Republicans are so caught off guard by this new approach, right? And they'll always, if Nancy Mace is saying something out of pocket, which she always is, right? And I'll talk about that and I'll make fun of her ridiculous cross earrings that look like the original crucifix. They're about a foot long. I'm like, how your earlobes are gonna like tear. Like, I'm genuinely worried about you. I hope you have reinforcements or whatever. Whenever I'll like make fun of, them or like be mean, you'll always get the response of like, oh wow, I thought you guys were the party of love and kindness, because that's always how they've tried to keep women
Hmm.
in their place. And it's so empowering to be like, you thought wrong. You're
Hmm.
wrong. That's actually not us at all. Now what? Then they don't know what to do because for a really long time, that has been something that they've kind of dangled over our heads. Well, remember, you guys talk about how you love everyone and how you
Hmm.
accept everyone, and so you have to be nice. And that's very patriarchal as well, right? It's a way to keep
Absolutely.
people docile. So when you can step out and be like, well, you thought wrong. This is actually how we're going to do things now. I think it's taken a lot of them by surprise. And I think it has a lot of women are shedding that need to people please, which I'm not gonna lie, that's not something I've experienced in my life. I think I've always been
Okay.
kind of a shit stirrer in a way, but a lot of women are like, no, you know what? You're you support my neighbors being ripped apart from their families and you're terrorizing communities. I don't have to be nice to you. And I can tell you that your hair looks stupid while I'm at it because who says I can't?
Hmm. So you've been doing this now for a year, and you have such a potent voice, a voice that sticks out. Like when we think of like Aaron Parnas or a lot of the other like political commentators, yours like stands out as, I mean, very feminine, controversial depending on who you ask, but also very direct and to the point. How do you allow yourself to stay anchored and authentic to your voice?
You know what? It's interesting. I wouldn't say I lead with anger. Like it may come off that way because can be sarcastic and rough around the edges, but I try really hard to not lead with anger and to not just come on the internet and rant. I know that's a lot of people's style and that can be cathartic for people to do and for people to listen
Hmm.
to. Me, not so much. I try to always stay true to myself, which is being entertainment first. And I've always said, like, if there's not a special angle I can take, I have always looked at content creation similar to how I look at comedy, which is if I can't find a new angle of coming at this or something to compare this to or a new way to make this entertaining, then I don't usually enter the arena. So for me, it's important that I stick to things that I know and understand and care about. I don't try to talk about everything all at once. It doesn't mean that I don't care about things. It just means that one, there's only so many hours in the day. I really am not as online as people might think, despite, this being my career, because I do try to engage in real life more than online. But I try to just ensure that I'm staying true to myself, and that means being entertaining. And that also means saying no to a lot of things. Like I get asked to do interviews with members of Congress all the time. And I'm like, one, I don't know anything about that topic, or I don't have a way to make this interesting. Or I've watched interviews with that member before and they're really boring and dry. And I just don't think our styles are going to mesh. So I have to constantly remind people in the political space, like at the end of the day, I'm a comedian and I'm an entertainer, and this is going to look different. And if y'all aren't willing to play ball, forget it.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you've managed to create limits is not the right word, but safeguards like for yourself. If you're going to create and be public facing in this space, you're sticking to what you know and allowing yourself to lean on your strengths rather than going into territory that like A, you might not have the information for, but B, there are other people who are covering that. And so allowing yourself to stay in your niche, lead with comedy while also empowering and advocating for what's important to you is so impressive.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people in any field to, easier said than done, obviously, depending on your situation, but like knowing your strengths and constantly asserting them. Like when I was in the corporate world, and I had just gotten promoted. So it was like I was kind of sad to leave my job because I'd really worked on that promotion. But it was like every
Mm-hmm.
single time I would meet with my manager, when we would talk about my performance and goals, I would always say, as you know, I'm looking to get promoted this year. And I would constantly like put in front of people, this is what I want. This is what I'm good at. I've always been, I think, not afraid to raise my hand and, nominate myself for opportunities, doing that to other people as well. Especially in the space that I work in, politics and influencing, you have never met people with bigger egos in your entire life. Oh my God. Oh my God. The most self-important people I've ever met. And again, coming from the private sector, I'm like, wow, this would never fly. Like you would never
Mm-hmm.
conduct business like this. So it's just like it still blows my mind, but I am always looking, when I get invited to programs, if I have friends who I think would be a good fit, I always throw out their name. I'm constantly trying to connect people, but the lesson in all of that is asserting what you're good at, asserting what you know, and asserting what you don't want to do is also
Mm-hmm.
important when you have, the privilege and opportunity to be able to do that. I've certainly done lots of things in my professional career that I didn't want to do that I had to do. But I think always keeping at the forefront what you're good at and reminding people, and especially for women, because men have no problem talking about the things they're good at. And when I was a recruiter, a college recruiter, I would have lots of young women, oh, I don't want to, I'm nervous about talking about that in the interview because I don't want to brag. And I said, who's not nervous? All of your male peers. So speak up and talk about the things that you're good at, please. We need it.
In what ways do you feel like your corporate career prepared you for your life now?
Oh my gosh, so many ways. And I've had such an interesting corporate career, but the majority of it, so I started as a campus recruiter. So I worked for an accounting firm, one of the big four, and I would go to different colleges and I would talk to students, interview students, host events, speak in classes. And all of those are super helpful for what I do now, right? In terms of public speaking and
Mm-hmm.
networking. And I would say, particularly interviewing, because I learned how to be a good interviewer and how to ask good questions and how to make the experience stand out, because my mindset was always like we can't give offers to everybody, but I can make sure this person has a great experience and then they'll tell their friends that they really liked meeting with us. So I always tried to make it unique. I never wanted us to feel like a normal interview. I remember like in the interview waiting room I would play like music, which sounds like okay,
Mm-hmm.
but no one did that. Right? We
Mm-hmm.
had alcohol at our recruiting events. No one was pressured to drink, but I'm like, I wanted it to feel different. I was incredibly intentional. I think that's enabled me to be a really strong interviewer when I meet with members of Congress or on my podcast, right? I have everyone from, and they're all my friends, right? But like
Mm-hmm.
A-list celebrities to different personalities, and none of them feels like more important or less important than the other because I just look at it as a conversation. And then working in finance, I would say one, I'm really good at project management. And a lot of people in this entertainment industry are not. Like the number of times I've had to chase down invoices and, advocate for myself for higher rates. Those are all tactics I learned from working in finance. And then finally, when I ended in finance, I was in communications and change management consulting. So that was all about crafting a compelling message. How do you get people to open an email? How do you get people to care about this financial initiative? Why should a 25-year-old care about saving for retirement if they can't pay bills? How do you convince them that it's important? A lot of it is about persuasion. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that having that professional background enabled me to make compelling online content because a lot of the concepts are the same.
And corporate is also pretty specific in the sense that it's a standard 9 to 5. You have a typical routine. When days feel really busy, really chaotic for you, what grounds you in your day to day?
Honestly, the first thing that came to mind was my dogs. I don't know what I would do without them. I have two rescue dogs, Colin and Ruthie. It's very humbling. And like I said, people in this industry are so self-important. I don't ever want to be one of those people. And my family would tell me if I was. Trust me, I'm one of six kids. I have very outspoken parents. They would tell me. But I would say my dogs, honest to God. I also foster. So I was actually, they were supposed to arrive today, four foster puppies from Puerto Rico. They're flying all the way from Puerto Rico,
Oh.
but they got delayed. I don't know what the situation is. They're not coming till Monday. Pouring myself back into animals and being around animals is so grounding. And then to fitness. So, and that can look different for everybody, right? It's not about burning calories or
Mhm.
whatever it is, but I work out with a trainer and then I do a pretty consistent cardio routine where I just walk and it's just like my time and I love it. So without those two things, I would absolutely have lost my mind by now, for sure.
And those are two things that really force you to A, slow down, and B, I find having a dog, you really have to have your priorities in place because you want to love the dog. You want to spend as much time as you can with your dog. I know that's how I feel about my dog.
That's all
And
I want to
so,
do. Literally all I want to do. I'm like, I don't want to leave my house. I just want to be with them. It's actually a problem.
literally, I'm like, how can I bring my dog? When can we hang
Yes,
out?
yes.
And so there's a lot of things, like you just mentioned, there's a lot of things that you could say yes to, but then having those priorities, having those things that ground you, you learn how to what to prioritize and what to put in place to make those things happen.
Yeah, and I would honestly say that's something I'm still working on, like especially from a financial standpoint. There's very little predictability with what I do, right? Like you
Mhm.
might have a brand partnership that's pretty consistent or something like that, but they don't pay as much as people think they do. And if you have a team, which I did up until very recently, I mean, I would a fourth of what I made, I never even saw, right? Like literally never saw. 30% for taxes, that's what you're kind of left with. But I still struggle with overextending myself because of the unpredictability and because of the
Mhm.
concern that this could go away at any time. And I have no idea what deals will or will not come my way. But I also don't want to have a scarcity mindset. So that's something I try. I want to be realistic about, yeah, this is a business where I do have to
Mhm.
haul ass and work really, really hard. But also, it's always worked out. It's going to continue to work out. I believe in myself and my abilities. And if I had to totally pivot careers and go back to corporate or do something else, I could do that too. So I try
Mhm.
to just remember like you have the skills and the toolbox in place, the tool set. I don't know. I don't really work with tools a lot, to be honest. I use like a platform heel to nail things to my wall, but I have the tool set, I have the skill set. So I also don't want to burn myself out so much either. And
Mhm.
that everyone in this industry feels that way. It's not just me.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people who create content consistently, who are pivoting more into creative careers, that uncertainty, that unpredictability about paycheck is so real. And it requires us to have like this high level of self-trust. Like, if it's worked out up until this point, I have no doubt it's going to continue working out.
Yes, and that belief, I think people roll their eyes or they think it's naive or short-sighted, and that innate belief in myself that this was always going to happen is the only thing that has propelled me forward sometimes, right? Because I mean, I've bombed so many times on stage and I'm gonna bomb more, right? Like it is what
Mhm.
it is. I've had videos flop. I'm gonna have more videos flop. I've had people try to cancel me. I mean, like you name it. I've gone through it. But I've just always kind of known like, no, I'm gonna work in entertainment. And maybe other people didn't see it when I was working my super high pressure finance job, but I did. You just have to have that belief in yourself. It's so important.
And like you said, it's that moving with scarcity and having that energetic belief that like all of this is working, everything is happening in its divine timing. It again, it all allows you to build your values, build your priorities, and understand where you're putting your energy and your focus. I want to
Absolutely.
shift a little bit because you are thinking about going on tour, I believe, for
Yes.
comedy.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the dates and cities will be announced imminently, like any day now, but it mimics, so it's Mean But True live, and it mimics my podcast to an extent. So it's stand-up comedy, and then at the end we do a sit-down component where the other comics, and then I'm gonna have a special guest at each show that isn't announced until the day of, come on. And it's a lot of like audience participation. So with the last show, we asked audience members, we had them write down on pieces of paper people that they wanted to roast, and then
Hmm.
also something mean but true that they wanted to say, because I do that on my podcast. I ask the guests something mean but true. I ask them someone they want to roast, and I ask them someone they want to toast. So I ask the people on stage that as well. And then it just creates this like really, really funny engagement and back and forth with the audience. Like we had one girl on the DC Improv show talk about how her husband had an affair and she found out and she was right in the front row. So it was like we just like totally like sidetracked and like dove into that situation for 10 minutes. So you have to be prepared for anything, but there's genuinely nothing more fun to me than just like laughing with my buddies and making people laugh in the audience. And it was so great. Like so many people came up afterwards and was like, that's the most fun I've ever had at a comedy show. A ton of women I always ask because I also want the clubs to see, hey, I know how to bring people
Hmm.
in. I ask them how, for a lot of them, I ask them who is seeing stand-up comedy live for the first time at this show. And I mean, it was a huge proportion of the audience. And I think there's a lot of women who are rightfully nervous to go to a stand-up comedy show because they're worried about being heckled, which like we're not doing that shit. You know, we're not like calling people out in the
Hmm.
audience. Or they're worried about being offended. And I don't say that in like a lame kind of way, but like it can hurt your heart to go to a comedy show and hear people say kind of like disgusting things, and they know that that's not going to happen because of the nature of the comics I have on my show, right? So it's like
Hmm.
it's a safe space, quote unquote. It's still a comedy show, right? So you might
Yeah.
that ruffle feathers, but you know that you're like around like-minded people, which I think
Hmm.
helps people just relax a little bit. But it was so much fun and it was so successful. We already have our next show planned on April 21st at the DC Improv. Just put it on the website. And I was like, let's take it to other cities. Other cities want this. There is a need for in-person connection. I'm calling it the offline tour because I do think really what we need and where the right is really like outpacing us is that in-person programming and events and just like having fun. Not everything has to be so serious. So I'm super excited to take it to most major cities in the US and some mid-sized cities as well, where I have a decent community built there too. So I'm so excited. I really can't wait.
That's so exciting. And it sounds like you'll be able to take a break from politics just a little bit. How are you feeling about allowing yourself to delve more into your comedy?
I mean, politics, I'm always going to be engaged. I'm always going to talk about it. Literally, right before this, I put up a video about the Virginia redistricting that I didn't even know was happening. I'm like, that's kind of scary because I'm a Virginia political commentator and comedian, and I didn't even know this was taking place. So that's always going to be something that I care about. But I'm honestly, I'm relieved to hopefully be online a little less. I genuinely think that the in-person connection is more valuable to this landscape
Mhm.
right now. And I mean, being online, someone it can be hard, right? It can create a disconnect between what is real and what is like manufactured online outrage. Like your sense of reality can really become distorted. But then you go out into the real world and it's like no one is talking about this or no one is mad about this. This is like a stupid thing that exists only on Twitter, right? So I'm very much looking forward to it, but will always ensure that I'm staying politically engaged and doing what I can to the best of my ability to ensure my audience is aware of important things too.
Yeah, I find the priority to be offline for people who consistently post and consistently engage online is so important because, like you said, there's so much that is manufactured, and there are so many conversations, so many opinions that are being thrown out. It can be really like destabilizing to constantly be
Totally.
online.
Totally. Yeah. And it's kind of like counterintuitive because it's like, well, you're an influencer. But I welcome other people. There's so many people who are interested in posting and talking about things. I'm like, there's room for all of us, right? So I'm excited for the tour. I mean, comedy has always been my first love. If my phone disappeared, I could still go and perform stand-up comedy, right? It's kind of like one of the only art forms that they can't take away from us. Algorithms can suppress our views, you can be kicked off platforms, whatever. They can't take away a comedy club.
Speaking of getting kicked off platforms and potentially getting canceled,
Oh
I
boy.
mean, you have just as many people that love you. You also have a lot of haters. You have a lot of people
Oh yeah.
that
I do?
would rather
Who?
not
No,
see
I'm kidding. Wait, what? I'm hearing this for the first time. No way.
you have people who would rather not see you online. How do you combat any of that? Like, how do you allow yourself to say, you know what, regardless of what's out there, like, I'm still going to show up and still be me?
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely, a lot of it comes from just having that unshakable sense of self. And I've just been like that since I was a little girl. Like I wouldn't call it delusional, but just like a insane amount of self-confidence is number one. And that can't be taught or it's
Hmm.
just like within me. Like I love this story. I was like a really ugly kid. I always say that's why I'm funny now. I was an ugly kid. It's fine. It is what it is. It's why I'm funny. And I remember coming home in sixth grade and telling my parents that there was a girl in my class who was objectively like a beautiful kid, right? She had a modeling agent. And I was telling my parents that I really think I needed to get a modeling agent because we were leaving money on the table. And they were like, yeah, we'll look into it. Meanwhile, no one would ask me to model unless it was like it was before a before picture or something, right? So I would say like some of it is just like having a self-confidence and a sense of self that has nothing to do with what other people think about me. I care, it's not that I don't care what other people think. I just care what I think about myself more. Your opinion of me will never, ever, ever matter more than my opinion of me. That's just, I try not to put too much stock in the positive comments and attention that I get or the negative comments. It's like you almost have to be neutral about it because if you overinvest in the love and appreciation that you get from people, when that suddenly goes away or when they turn on you, which a lot of people do and will at the drop of a hat, that can really warp your sense of self. So I try to just not put too much stock into the positive or the negative.
Yeah.
I would also say, like, I think I work in entertainment. I'm an entertainer. Of course, there's going to be people who don't like me. And I think it would be a crazy ego response to think otherwise. People are allowed to not like me. That there are plenty of
Mhm.
entertainers I don't like. It would be crazy to think that I wouldn't also have those. So I just kind of try to look at it neutrally and objectively. It's not to say it never gets to me, right? Of course it does, especially when you have if people are coming at you all at once, thousands of people repeating things that aren't true, yeah, that can get to you. But like I said, what I think of me will always matter more than what they think of me. And for a lot of these people, I'm like, you live a pathetic life. Like, you created an entire fake account and you went through the two-factor authentication process and you've picked an anonymous photo. Like, if you really break down everything they had to do to create these accounts to then troll me, I'm like, oh, you live a measly existence. You're a
Hmm.
loser. Like, you're an actual loser freak. So when you remember that it's like loser freaks doing a lot of this stuff, that really helps because why would I want a loser freak to like me? I wouldn't, right? I Having haters is a good sign in a lot of ways.
It means you're doing something right. And honestly, I made a post today about how a lot of creators that find themselves stuck in their content is when they put so much stock in the response to their audience. Like, it's one thing
Retweet,
to,
retweet,
of
retweet.
course, engage with our audience, but when we are reliant on like that positive feedback or the negative feedback, you're done. You're cooked. You're not.
I could not agree more. Emphatic agreement. And what even like and no shade to people who do this. However people want to approach things is totally up to them. But I had a comedy teacher who said when I couldn't think of ideas, he was like, "What can't you wait to tell them? Tell them that." And that has always been my approach to content. I think people get so in their heads about like, well, I don't normally do cooking content, so how is that gonna? Shut up. It doesn't matter. You're making it deeper than it is. Do the things you want to do. If you're interested in it, other people are going to be
Mhm.
interested in it. And where I think people often stagnate or just feel uninspired is when they're constantly trying to cater to the algorithm. Like, oh, well, everyone else is talking about Wuthering Heights, so I should talk about that too. No, and no shade on Wuthering Heights. I haven't watched it. I've seen like four movies in my
I
life.
haven't seen it.
And I know it's also a book, but like, I'm like so. I just started watching Euphoria. Literally just started watching it. Haven't seen Heated Rivalry. Like I'm so behind. And that is a betrayal to my audience, I think. I do need to watch Heated Rivalry like ASAP. I do feel like I'm betraying them in a way. But where I see people, I think, flounder is when they start, to your point, caring so much about the audience input or the algorithm. It's like, no, you just have to be true. You have to be true to yourself and talk about the things you want to talk about. And that might not show an immediate payoff and it might mean a slower build. There are so many things I could do to get more followers, but I don't do those things because I want to stay true to what my content is. I never want to be known for just one thing or just like one lane. And some people make entire careers out of that, and that's totally fine. That's just not what I want. So I totally agree with you. You can't put too much stock in the positive or the negative. And that was something that I learned from an influencer I follow named Hallie Kate. I don't know if you know who that is. She's in New York City. She's like a liberal fashion girly, which we need more of. And she's from Virginia. Her dad was like in the FBI or something. I love her. She's super cool. But she talked about that. She's like, I try not to pay attention to either end of the spectrum with comments because it really can warp your sense of self if you let it.
And speaking of building, I want to leave space for your podcast, Mean But True. It's a newer venture of your social media platforms. What has it been like to start delving into long form content?
Oh my gosh, I love it. I adore it. I am a freak. Last time I was in LA, because we have studios in LA and New York, I recorded 4 episodes in one day, which was a studio record. No one has ever done that. Wouldn't recommend. It was insanity back to back. I love it. I mean, what I love about long form is there's so much pressure in short form to like, okay, how do I get them to engage? How do I get them not to scroll? How do I,
Mm-hmm.
in long form, you can just kind of take a breath and have
Mm-hmm.
a real conversation and sidetrack and go into different subjects. And like I said, I mean, I loved interviewing. That was my favorite part of my corporate job. So now I never want it to feel like an interview, but it's akin to an interview, right? You have to do research, you have to ask good, thoughtful questions, you have to make them feel comfortable because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are super nervous to like get got on podcasts, right? So it's like, how do I set the tone and make them feel comfortable in the first minute? Like that is critical because I've also been on podcasts where I've joined, I can't think of any, but like, and I'm like, oh crap, this was a mistake. You know what I mean? Like it's like you just kind of know, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have done this. So I never want people to feel that way. But it's so fun. And I mean, we've gotten to cover with each guest, it's every conversation is so different. I have people on who it's an entertainment first podcast. So just like me, I've had so many members of Congress and their teams reach out asking to be on. And I'm like, no, because they're boring. And that's not what this is, right? Like this is it's not to say like I had Gavin Newsom on for a bonus episode and only because I know he'll play ball, right? He'll
Mm-hmm.
engage and be funny. A lot of them won't. And I don't want it to be a political podcast because I think what we actually need is to be Trojan horsing people in more, right? So I have stand-up comedians on. I've had actors, I've had athletes, right? Like just different also influencers, like different public figures because I don't want it to be a political podcast. So I mean, it's just been so much fun and having my friends on, getting to learn more about them has been really fun and interesting. So I think this week was our 16th episode. So it's still very new. And of course, it's such a process to build a podcast following. You have to be patient and I if it never goes anywhere, I will be happy with it just knowing the kinds of conversations that I've
Mm-hmm.
had, right? And how fun it's been to build from the very beginning.
Podcasting has been my favorite. So I'm with you 100% on what you're saying. I'm so excited to see your show grow. Suzanne, this has been such a wonderful conversation, and I hope that we bump into one another
I
sometime.
know, seriously. I want to go to the state fair exhibit this weekend. I'm trying to go to more museums and stuff. And there's a state fair exhibit at the Renwick I'm super excited about. But this has been so great. I mean, you're such a great podcaster, right? The way that you're able to make people feel comfortable and you ask such good questions. So thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you.